If we could move to our seats now, we'd like to get started with the Project of the Year Awards. Hello in the back. If we could get started, we'd like to, if you could move to your seats, we'd like to get started. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Sargent, and on behalf of the Rocky Mountain Commercial Real Estate Expo this year, as well as the DU Fall Forecast Committee, we are pleased to announce the winners of the 2013 Project of the Year Award. And on behalf of the Denver Business Journal, I'd like to say, on behalf of our president and publisher, Scott Bemis, he really wanted to be here today, but they moved up our moving date, literally, and we are in the process of moving to a new location at 1660 Lincoln. So it won't change anything else, only our location, but again, he sends his regrets for not being here today. If you haven't picked up a DBJ in a few weeks, you might want to do so. We've gone through a major transformation with our logo, as well as many of our ad sizes, and many of the content is a lot more relevant. It's exclusive, and it's very helpful to you if you want to use it to your advantage to move ahead. And we appreciate everything that you all do as subscribers, advertisers, and participants in our sponsorships and signature events as well. And I want to give a quick shout out to Dennis Uspeni, who is our reporter for real estate, and I encourage you to reach out to him and get on his radar as well, so we can all win from the information and wonderful things that you all are doing in the commercial real estate industry here in the Denver metro area. Okay, well, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chad Kanoth, who is with Excel Fund, as well as Brian McDonald with First American Title Insurance.
Thank you, Tiffany. I'm Chad Kanoth, and this is Brian McDonald, and we are honored to be able to share with you the winners in the following categories for Project of the Year Awards: Apartment, Best Historic Remodel, Hospitality, Industrial, Office, Retail, Emerging Developer, a new category this year, Special Project of the Year, and Project of the Year. Each project was selected because of a unique architectural design, site planning, overall creativity, and impact on the community.
All right, let's get started with the apartment/residential category. Block 32 at Rhino is a residential community which has successfully targeted the Generation Y population through intelligent planning, architectural design, and community building amenities. The project lies at the forefront of infill development in the River North area, also known as Rhino. Block 32 is a 4-story wood frame project with tuck-under garage and surface parking, and contains 205 luxury apartment units. Rhino started transformation with the development of the taxi project in the early part of the last decade, and evolved on a small scale with numerous artists, breweries, restaurants, and collaborative office space during the past 5 years. Prospect believed the young renter would be attracted to a unique, high-quality residential community in this area, despite of its primarily industrial surroundings. The vision was realized, as Block 32 is currently 94% leased, with rental rates 25% greater than original pro forma. Importantly, Block 32 has served as a catalyst for the development of the Brighton Boulevard corridor, a long-neglected area in Denver. Since Block 32 was started, 3 large developments are in progress in the Brighton Boulevard corridor. The Source, a 15,000 square foot European food emporium; Industry, a large collaborative office redevelopment of an existing industrial building at 31st and Brighton; and the Great Divide Brewing Company, at 33rd and Brighton. Could Scott McFadden and the entire prospect team for Block 32 at Rhino please come to the stage? Please help me congratulate them on winning the 2013 Apartment Project of the Year.
And now let's move our attention across the parking lot to the Special Historic Remodel category. The Special Historic Remodel Project of the Year goes to The Source, which is located at 3350 Brighton Boulevard in the Rhino District. This old iron foundry is a 25,000 square foot plus building with 60-foot high ceilings. Inside is a huge indoor market with 25 tenants, from restaurants to a distillery, a microbrewery to a coffee shop, an art gallery to a butcher, and even a bank. This up-and-coming neighborhood has a new project that every neighborhood in town would love to have. Please congratulate the winners of the Special Historic Remodel Project of the Year, developer Zeppelin Development, the architect Stephen Dynia Architects, and White Construction Group, the contractor.
All right, our next project of the year award is a unique project in Aurora, Colorado, developed by the Pauls Corporation in 2013. The United Natural Foods Build-to-Suit is the largest industrial building to be built in Denver since 2007. The 553,000 square foot distribution facility was developed on 39 acres just east of Pena Boulevard and north of 40th Avenue in the Gateway Park. The location of the building offers UNFI quick access to I-70, DIA, and various amenities, including the RTD East Corridor Light Rail. The facility was designed to achieve LEED Gold certification and includes 32-foot clearance heights, an ESFR sprinkler system, 160,000 square feet of refrigeration and freezer space, over 42,000 square feet of office space, in addition to the state-of-the-art automated warehouse picking system. The UNFI building is expandable up to an additional 170,000 square feet. The facility serves as a distribution hub for retailers in Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. The building was designed by Randall Paulson and constructed by Arco Design Build. The sale of the building, upon completion, the building was sold to IIT Denver, an affiliate of Industrial Income Trust. The sale of the building was the largest single-tenant, net-leased industrial deal ever recorded in the Rocky Mountain region. If I could please have Charlie Alexander and Mike Serra, principals of the Pauls Corporation, along with Andrea Karp, Senior Vice President at Industrial Income Trust, please come to the stage. Please help me congratulate them on winning this year's Industrial Project of the Year.
Our next category takes us right to the heart of downtown Denver and acknowledges the hospitality project of the year for a dual-branded hotel, which is Homewood Suites and Hampton Inn Suites Denver Downtown Convention Center, which is located at 1550 15th Street. The Hampton Inn is 120 units and occupies floors 2 through 5, and the Homewood Suites is 182 units and occupies floors 6 through 12. The building was purchased from Xcel Energy in March 2011, and the original building was a mid-1960s construction, which the developer used a local Denver hospitality design team that included Design Force, an art curator, and 9 Dot Arts to design the hotel space. With a highlight of a living green wall in the lobby, this is the 12th dual-branded property from Hilton in North America. Please congratulate the winners of the Hospitality Project of the Year, developer Stonebridge Companies, the architect Paul Architecture, PC, and Alliance Design Build Solutions, LLC, the contractor.
All right, many companies are moving their headquarters to Denver and changing the Denver landscape. This next award winner takes us to Englewood and has created a wonderful new project in that area. The Trizetto World Headquarters office building is located in the popular southeast suburban market of Metro Denver in the Meridian International Business Park. The site sits up on a hill overlooking the Meridian Golf Course with spectacular views of the Rocky Mountains to the west. This Class A, 5-story structure is the new worldwide headquarters for the Trizetto Corporation. Trizetto is an information technology systems provider for the healthcare industry and is growing rapidly in today's changing healthcare environment. They relocated nearly 900 employees from multiple older spaces and are utilizing this new facility to bring their entire employee base together in one location. This has increased their efficiency while preparing for ongoing and future growth. The exterior facade of the building is acid-etched precast with floor-to-ceiling glass on the upper levels. The lower level includes a full cafeteria and fitness center and connects to a large outdoor patio space, complete with an outdoor kitchen, extensive built-in seating, and an amphitheater-style gathering area for large corporate meetings. The project was designed with sustainable practices and intends to pursue a LEED CI rating for the interior tenant finish. Opus utilized its vertically integrated approach to streamline this project through a significant design and entitlement process in only 5 months. Construction of the entire facility was complete in 12 months. If Celeste Tanner from the Opus Development could come to the stage along with any others from the Trizetto team, if you'll please help me congratulate them on the Office Project of the Year.
Our next project takes us out to the west side of Denver, the Retail Project of the Year, which goes to the Promenade at Denver West, which is located at the corner of Colfax and Indiana Street, adjacent to the Colorado Mills Mall. This project was a former car dealership that got transformed into a 63,000 square foot shopping center with retail pads and inline shopping center space. The developer describes this project as a timeless and elegant design that maximizes glass exposure, signage for tenants, and wide pedestrian walkways with ample outdoor seating. This project got a who's who of retail tenants, including Chick-fil-A, Cafe Rio, Panera Bread, Mod Market, Garbanzo, just to name a few. Please congratulate the winners of the Retail Project of the Year, developer Alberta Development Partners, LLC, the architect SEM Architects, and W.E. O'Neill, the contractor. Looks like they're not here right now. We now turn our attention to the Golden Triangle and announce this year's special project of the year, which goes to Galvanize, located at 1062 Delaware Street. Galvanize was a reuse of the old Denver PS1 school and the historic Rocky Mountain Banknote building. This 27,000 square foot plus historic building serves more than 300 entrepreneurs representing more than 52 companies. Galvanize is not your typical office building. It is a concept community using principles of capital, community, and curriculum. It hopes to breed the next generation of business leaders. The space uses a school to teach new students entrepreneurship. The students get to interact with the existing entrepreneurs and their businesses, and once they graduate, there's venture capital companies within a community that are willing and able to give money to the fledgling entrepreneurs. Please congratulate the winners of Special Project of the Year, developer Nichols Development, the architect, Open Studio, and Sprung Construction Group, the contractor.
Okay, it looks like they're off starting. Are they here? Oh, awesome. Over in there in the dark. Welcome. Thought you were off starting companies and eating at those restaurants or something. Okay, we have a new category this year that I'm actually pretty excited about. We hope that it inspires some of you to submit projects next year. In addition to our Project of the Year awards, we wanted to create a category for an emerging developer. They may not be the biggest around, but they are certainly making their name known in the Denver market, and we're delighted to acknowledge the 2012 emerging developer as Paul Books with Palisade Partners. Palisade Partners is a boutique developer operating in central Denver neighborhoods. Since 2010, Palisade has completed 4 acquisition rehab projects on 1960s era buildings, along with the development of B Street Low-High and another project at 1756 Clarkston, which is due to open in a few weeks. Palisade has been able to routinely target undervalued properties, pro forma them conservatively, and achieve outsized returns for its investors. One of the projects they completed recently was B Street Low-High, which is a 73-unit, 5-story, LEED Silver apartment building located in Denver's most popular neighborhood. B Street offers residents the best in amenities, including modern luxury units with granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and in-unit dishwashers. The top floor community room includes, check this out, a kegerator, pool table, IMAX, fitness center, and a rooftop deck with stunning views of downtown and the mountains. B Street has only been open for 2 months and is already a financial success. The building is over 50% leased, and rents are exceeding pro forma by 60 cents per square foot. In addition, Paul was able to lock in a favorable land basis and construction costs before the market and neighborhood started heating up. B Street Low-High has exceeded expectations in every way. We want to congratulate Confluence Builders, the general contractor, Crane Architecture, Todd Hager, who was the owner's rep, Cornerstone Apartment Services, and MC Design. Please help me congratulate Paul in being voted the Emerging Developer of the Year. Okay. Our final award is for the 2013 overall Project of the Year. This year's award is for the Ralph L. Card Judicial Center in Denver, Colorado. 2 state entities, the Judicial Department and the Colorado History Center, shared the same parcel of land in Denver across from the state capitol. In 2005, the state retained a ULI panel to review the plans of each entity. ULI recommended a consolidation of judicial-related agencies on site and a relocation of the museum. In 2006, the state selected Trammell Crow Company to prepare and implement a plan to develop these two new facilities. Trammell Crow evaluated the space needs of both entities, including the consolidation of 7 different judicial and legal-related entities in 10 different locations into a single judicial center. Alternative sites for the relocation of the museum were evaluated. Project budgets and alternative financing plans were outlined. In 2008, the state legislature considered and passed HB 206, allowing the two entities to pursue tax-exempt financing of the project, utilizing a portion of the state gaming revenues allocated to the museum and an increase in court fees. No general funds were to be used on the project. In 2009, a public finance team led by Trammell Crow sold $340 million in tax-exempt Build America bonds to fund the project. The state will own the facilities upon repayment of the bonds in 2045. Trammell Crow acquired a nearby parcel for the new History Colorado Center, assembled the design and construction teams for each project, and relocated 2 agencies from the site and proceeded with demolition of the 2 facilities. The 190,000 square foot History Colorado Center was completed in October of 2011 for a cost of $111 million. The Ralph Carr Judicial Center includes a Supreme Court, 2 appellate courts, the State Law Library, Clerk of the Courts, the State Court Administrator's Office, the Attorney General's offices, and numerous other state legal-related entities. The 650,000 square foot Judicial Center was completed early and under budget with the approximate total cost of $258 million. The project is targeted to receive a LEED Gold certification. Here today to accept the award is Fred Schultz, Senior Development Manager with Trammell Crow, and Brett Sisko, Project Executive with Mortensen Construction. Would you please help me in congratulating them on winning the Project of the Year for 2013. All right, thank you to everybody who's done work on these amazing projects. We're excited to be a part of these and congratulate you on completing these in such challenging times as the last couple of years have been. So as we look forward to the coming year, if you know of any projects that will be completed in 2014 but prior to the Expo, please contact myself or Chad Knoth or any of our friends at DU or DEMCAR to nominate those projects for the 2014 Projects of the Year. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the program.
Maybe we could give them one more round of applause for those well-deserved awards. Well, on to the afternoon keynote speaker. I'm honored to stand before you here today and introduce him. Mr. Rose has served as CEO and chairman of the board at Avison Young since 2008. He has executed on an aggressive growth strategy, increasing the Avison Young offices from 11 to 54 in just the past 3 years, making Avison Young the fastest growing commercial real estate company in North America, all the while maintaining one of the strongest balance sheets in the business. Prior to joining Avison Young, Mr. Rose was CEO of Grubb & Ellis, and before Grubb, he served as Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer of the Americas for Jones Lang LaSalle. Notably, at 26 years old, he was the CEO of the British Coal Pension Funds REIT here in the U.S. It is my distinct pleasure and an honor to introduce this wonderful guy and a trusted colleague, Mark Rose.
Are we on? Good. Let's try to liven this up. This is just going to be a conversation between me and the 1,000 of you. So, we'll try to pull you in here. Really wanted to pull together just some thoughts, get you thinking about change, get you thinking about strategy, get you thinking about planning. You've spent the day hearing, an awful lot about stats and the real estate community and Denver, and we'll touch upon all these. We'll have a couple of stats in here as well. Kay Sargent, I just want you to know that not only was your session highly regarded, but I think I saw every attendee power walking outside down the streets of Denver, so you've already had a tremendous impact. No, but seriously, for the last few months, this is the time of the year where everybody holds everything. For some reason in our calendaring, the real estate community does believe that it needs to hold every single event all at the same time. So we've had ULI, we've had Coronet, we've had ICSC events, we've had, obviously this event. The RealPAC Association has its invitation-only CEO retreat, which is always pulled out of Canada. This year was held in San Francisco. That's been done at the same time. So the good news is we have an awful lot of information. The bad news is we're trying to cram all this stuff in at the same time. But there is a consistent theme coming. And let me start off with just saying, at the end of the day, no matter what we talk about, any challenge leads to opportunity. Any and every challenge leads to opportunity. What is a mess for us in a cyclical business is when people do not prepare, or worse, you look away from signals that are in front of you. And some of what I'm going to talk about today doesn't really have an answer yet, but it does have enough of a signal or a trend that you should think about. And I know for the last 4 years, there's a particular session that I've been moderating at a very large convention, and I've asked CEOs this question, owners, each of the last 4 years. Have you spent any time preparing for when interest rates go up? And you'll see later on, I'm going to absolutely take issue with Howard's comment earlier today, because if you missed what happened in May, when the thought of tapering had interest rates spike and deals got blown up everywhere in the US for a short period of time, and it was people's behavior, it wasn't actually interest rates. People need to understand signals and plan. And the planning part is 5-year planning in most cases to try to figure out what could come, and do you have your contingency? Do you have your plan B? So let's just start with change. And change is there. It's just inevitable, right? Change happens. We live in one of the most cyclical businesses that exist. It just is. And there's changes in technology, which we've seen and we love and we're getting better. And by the way, we happen to still be behind places like Asia and even South America in the use of technology in our real estate, which is truth. We also have negative change, and this one was too easy not to beat up on. So if any of you are the 6 people that have actually signed up for Obamacare, it's just not going so well. And then, of course, there's positive change. Come on, folks. Come on, get here. Come on. My question is, what took you so long bringing the man back? He's nuts, but he's going to win. So, well done on that for having the best hockey team in the NHL right now. Okay, I guess that when we cut a check and we get our logos everywhere, we actually get to talk about the company. But before I do that, because I want to talk about it only in the context of transformational change, is taking a step back. We are all products of our experience and our history and everything else. And, I always want to tell the story. I had this most amazing mentor, and especially for every young person in the audience, that if you haven't found a way to get a mentor, I had one of the most powerful men in Wall Street who taught me so much, starting with teaching people to be better than I could ever be. And what that does is it builds not just loyalty, but actually builds success when you have a team helping something happen and occur. But as a fairly young man, 1987, I joined Pan American Properties, which was British coal pension funds, REITs. It was quasi-public. There was a nominee corp that the pensioners, the folks with the hats and the lights who went down into the mines, the coal mines in Britain, their pension fund money, they had about $1 billion. At that time it was one of the largest in the US, but it was quasi-public, and we wanted to take it fully public. And seriously, our CEO at that time decided to take a 2-week vacation that pushed the IPO to October 27th 1987, which if any of you were around for that, that was rather unfortunate, in an unfortunate delay because the crash of 87 occurred. Basically, you're writing checks, money's going out the door. You don't have, your company filed or public, but the good news is you can go into asset management mode. And in 1988, there were very clear signals that A, we had $1 billion. It was aging, so it needed about $50 million of CapEx. It was yielding 3%. And at the same exact time, you could take this $1 billion. FERPTA was allowing you at that point to take it back to London, tax-free, where you could put it into your own currency, which was yielding 14% risk-free. So if you work with me here, 3% that you have today with risk and CapEx, 14% risk-free. There was only one answer. But I was I was a very young CEO. And that's a troubling thing to do. And actually had to line up against my CEO because she wanted to put $450 million of debt on the company heading into 1989, which was just about the peak for that period. But working with my mentor, who was the chairman of the company at that time, we wrote a strategy that said, we really need to sell this company. I know this is painful, people don't like to lose their jobs, but we have a responsibility for the pensioners that we serve. We can take this thing, we can repatriate the money, it can be put back at 14% risk-free, we have to do it. We won the day, she went away, I became the CEO, and we executed. Sold the O'Connor Group, all of my retail for a 4.2 cap. We love those guys. Sold all of the office to Office Industrial to Trammell Crow Ventures at a 6 cap. Most of those people are gone from what they were doing. And we got the money out, and they became one of the top pension fund managers in all of Europe because they had no exposure to U.S. real estate in 1990 when everything fell apart. So why is he telling this story? It is not to brag. It is the next piece. The next piece was huge accolades, great things happened, recognition of writing the strategy, getting their money out, making them a top pension fund in Europe. And here's the learning, because I just didn't know back then, and I just didn't have the experience, was in 1994, writing the strategy to get them to put the money back in and put it to work. Because, as you all know, from 1995, literally, for a 12 or 13-year period, things were rather phenomenal. But these are the things that you learn. So again, didn't miss that we needed to get it out and save them, but didn't have the knowledge at the time to write the next strategy to put it back to work, because the savings of the money was great. The doubling, tripling, and quadrupling of the money that could have occurred starting in that period of time, that was the piece. So you don't forget these things. And then I had the great honor to be part of the leadership team to form and create Jones Lang LaSalle. I was on the Jones Lang Witten side. You know, the thing took about 3 years, and on March 11th, 1999, we put together, what was at the time one of the largest real estate services firm in all the world. But you learn things, again, and you had to see cultures, understanding that culture drives everything, and that change was coming. Take a very passionate, proud American company, merge it with a very passionate, culturally proud European and Asian company, and there were going to be conflicts, and you needed change, and you had to identify that change. And so on and on, and so the few things I'll say about Avison Young, yeah, Mark gave you the stats. I mean, I'll give them to you. We don't mind. We've gone from 11 offices in Canada, 293 total people, 53 partners, 38 million in revenue, 2 million in profit. We put together our plan, and in the last 3 years, we've actually opened up the 54th office in Maryland last week with the acquisition of McShay, but we are now 1,550 people, 54 offices, 240 shareholders, 170 of them are partners, 300 million in revenue, over 30 million in EBITDA, and no debt. And that's because there is a new day. There's a new day in terms of work that people put in to build something that value, that net worth building activity goes back into the pockets of the people who are actually doing the building, not into public vehicles, and go into the pockets of people who have nothing to do with these entities anymore. And it has changed, and this is what's worked. And we've also embraced that if you don't like our office in one particular place, don't use it. Just use us in the rest of the places. Global mandates are okay, and the client comes first, always first. And especially at Jones Lang LaSalle, I would always field the call, like a Procter & Gamble. We did millions and millions of dollars of business. But one office, they just didn't like it, and we said, no, but your contract says that you have to use us. That's just not a great client relationship. So brand new strategies here in terms of if you don't like us in Kuala Lumpur or Atlanta or Frankfurt, don't use us, it's okay. We still want to bring the strategy. We're going to try to convince you that you should use us. But it's okay, because you always have to come first here. And then the growth is not for growth's sake, in terms of seeing what is in front of us. Layers and layers of managers who are getting paid to oversee an organization when the producers, as long as they collaborate, can produce the magic. We just had to change the structure. So that's kind of what we're doing. I gave the stats already. You don't need the sales pitch. You see they're great numbers. We're really proud. We're nowhere near done. You're going to see more and more announcements. I think we've made virtually one every 1.5 weeks for 3 years. And there's much, much more to come here. So thank you for listening to that. And I guess our check meant something. So thank you, Phil and Mark, for doing that. Okay, so let's get into the real estate part. Let's talk about real estate, right? Before we talk about real estate, we have to talk about the government. My office technically is in Toronto. I'm an American. I grew up in New York. My family's in Chicago, but I split between the two countries. And honestly, I'm not embarrassed by my country. It's embarrassing, some of the things that go on and what you explain. And what we have right now is political uncertainty that is holding us back. Last year at the Toronto Real Estate Forum, some of the most incredible economists that you have ever seen all got up on stage and said, thank goodness, U.S. election's over, everything's going to be fine. U.S. is a coiled spring, great things are going to happen. And it just didn't happen because we continue to have this issue, these fights, this whatever you want to call it, put your own names to it. But I can tell you this, the U.S. wants to get better. I can also tell you, and lots of companies don't like to talk about this stuff, you have to be honest, right? Change comes with honesty. If you take a look, since every one of my public competitor, or every one of my competitors right now is effectively public, you can look at their numbers, and if you look at velocities in the US, it's not that people aren't growing, but everybody missed estimates because there's just not enough velocity. Why is there not enough velocity? There's not enough velocity that was expected because, and this is the truth, people do not understand Obamacare. People do not understand what a sequester is. They don't understand debt ceilings. They don't understand fiscal cliffs. They don't understand why their taxes went up. They didn't even understand the payroll tax increase, thinking maybe that would have been permanent. And what that has done is just bring uncertainty. This is not a negative thing. This is just temporary. People need to understand it. I am not kidding you. For our own company, trying to put in health insurance because in theory, even though our industry is the only industry that fought hard at the government level to get our ICs to be deemed employees and ICs all at the same time for tax purposes, under Obamacare, ICs don't actually count. And so we had our insurance provider, 2 companies, the advisors, 7 sets of attorneys, and it took about 4 hours. I think the meeting cost about $60,000, and the end result of the meeting was, we're just not quite sure. So we've put in place, as best we understand, with opinions from counsel of what we think actually works. Well, you know what? I do want to be an optimist. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I don't love the law, but somewhere down the line, I'm sure it's going to be fine. The issue is if you don't understand it and then you don't know how to invest in it, that is, again, signals of what we've seen, which is there has been constant putting fingers on the pause button. Now, some of you in this room might say, not really sure what you're talking about, things are good here, and I actually can sympathize with that because things are good here. I mean, I just came from Miami on Friday. Things are great there. the absolute most product you've ever seen that nobody's ever lived in, but everything's full. Because there's South American flight capital is moving its way into Miami, and that has just led to incredible things happening there. It's probably the hottest market in all of the U.S., but Denver's a great one. And so you've seen some good things. But all throughout the country, you've seen people just put their finger on the pause button from time to time. It slows things down. Losing $24 billion from the economy because of the shutdown, it doesn't help. As I mentioned earlier, as it relates to tapering, there was a hiccup. You cannot miss this. In May, they talked about tapering. Interest rates, if you were actually out financing at that time, they spiked. 30, 50, 70, 100 basis points. They spiked. So you have to be careful of change. Not that it's negative, just that you need to understand it. And so let's just look at a couple of things. These will be about the only stats. 2012, 2013, they look to be on par, 264 million of volume. It looks like by the time we finish, those are year-to-date numbers for 13. By the time we finish, they should look the same. And so you say, Mark, where's the change? Well, there's not between those 2 years. Denver, not going to quite get to last year's numbers, 5.9 last year, 4.2. Could we get to 5 billion? Yeah, sure, maybe, whatever, but probably not get to 5.9. But here's the real story. This is our industry in a nutshell. We're at 450 billion of transactions in 2007. In 2009, we went down to slightly over 50 billion. That's a pretty significant drop in velocity. And then you started to see things build, and as you continue the curve up, I think 13 will look like 12. But here's the good news: we have a ways to go, and it wants to happen. It truly wants to happen. And then you look at Denver, same thing. It looks almost like the U.S. picture overall. You had very high volumes, over 8 billion. It drops down, it comes back up. We're probably not going to hit the same number in 13, but again, it wants to get better. Right? We can't just use these anecdotal things are great, things aren't great. That's not what this is about. Things are getting better, it wants to get better. We need the government to get out of the way for it to happen. Right, and I have a slide a little later on, but let me give the punchline right now. If they don't start to work together, I don't really care whether it's the same or whether they are going to be angry at each other or do the things that they do to each other. If they don't compromise, we'll have this through the rest of the balance of this president's term. And so now we're looking at a true recovery out in 16 and 17. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that if they can get together. Again, I believe it's a coiled spring. It's my opinion, but I think it's a coiled spring that if they could actually work together, we would have a recovery. So I told you about meeting after meeting, and I'm going to steal some things from the RealPAC CEO forum. And Canada's a small place, right? There's 5 banks, the healthiest banks in the world. There's 30 million people. All office space, the entirety of office space in Canada fits into basically Manhattan. So it's a small place, but a very healthy place. And we sat and listened to, and I watched the owners, because basically the same 7 groups own virtually all institutional property all throughout Canada, but watch their jaws drop when CIBC put this slide up and talked about it. And then Chris Lee, who many of you know, gave his slides, which I'll touch on, I'll touch upon here. But he gave the example of things have been great for REITs. Canada, REITs have been born, they've been gobbling up 40% of all assets. These are the smartest these CEOs, just the smartest human beings on the face of the earth. They've been buying, it's been great. The REITs at 14% returns, compound returns over 15 years against the TSX at 6%. And they're patting themselves on the back and they're just loving things. And we talk a little bit about cap rates, and they say, yeah, it's cap rate compression. It's cap rate compression because we were really smart, and we knew that on an alternative investment basis, that real estate was going to be a better play. It was better. We've got good covenant. This all works. And so cap rate compression has driven all of this growth, and we are so good we just can't believe it. Until they threw up these 2 slides. So this is for Canada. It's really the same one for the US, so the 10-year. In both countries. And here's just a fact. 40% of the returns over the last 15 years, 40% of the returns had nothing to do with any human being transacting in the real estate space. It has to do with interest rates have fallen that low that you've been able to refinance. Now, somebody made a call to refinance or use debt at lower rates. And this shouldn't hurt anybody, but it did. It hurts people's feelings, really proud people, and it hurt their feelings. But the facts are interest rates drove 40% of what happened out there. And so here is, again, this is not to be negative, this is the issue. You look at the charts I just showed you, interest rates have only one way to go. And I'm not going to predict for you whether it's 14 or 15, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's next week, I don't know if it's next year. But they only have one way to go. And interest rates drives our behavior, and our behavior is not always linear. Our behavior tends to be knee-jerk sometimes. And when we hear about tapering, and this is where, again, I take huge issue, if we will in the first quarter, hear about tapering again, and interest rates are going up. And by the way, that tiny little country with the incredible balance sheet that's providing most of the oil back to the US, at least at the moment, is actually predicting a surplus budget at the federal level in 2015 and 16. And when you run a surplus, you got to raise your interest rates because you're going to have inflation. And so you've got, and by the way, the UK is facing this issue that they're getting healthy really quickly here. And so there are things out there to make us wonder. You don't have to go right to worry, but you have to plan for these things. And the only good news that the Gong Show down in DC will probably keep this going for the next couple of years because they're just not going to get together. But here's the great news. It gives you time to plan. It just gives you time to plan. Don't miss the sign. We don't need to talk about kicking the can down the road. We've heard it 12 different times. And as Howard said this morning, this is not going to be over in January or February, but we've got to get them together because this is what pushes whether we're going to succeed or not. This is going to be the key driver of whether we allow that coiled spring to go up. So let's look at investment flows. Again, these things, I'm going to go fairly quickly through this. I know we're a little late on all programming and I don't want to take up too much time, but I have just some things to get in front of you. The world is changing from cities to regions. These are megatropolises now that people are talking about because there are dependencies of areas. And it may seem funny to you, but because there are dependencies, people are looking at regions differently. And one of the things that this does is if you look at cities are moving not in concert, but they kind of widely move up and down. Denver, as you know, again, I just wanted to point out, is doing well. When you take a look at when you group regions, not just the megatropolises that are now being viewed, it brings stability because now you can look at a region and say, I have an investment thesis for a region. And it allows for better investment theories and investment committees to make decisions because micro changes city to city aren't necessarily the way to look at these things anymore. As I mentioned, Canada, if anybody missed this, you know, it's one of the reasons why back in 2008 when I was finishing the strategy, it was going to be London or going to be Canada, and two things really pushed the headquarters of this new company that we were forming to create Avis & Young, and all the strategies underneath, was first currency, and at the time the British pound was trading at a discount, the Canadian dollar was trading at a premium, and as you know, you'd rather buy things with premiums than buy things with discounts. And the second thing was it looked like Canada was in at the beginning of such a nice run at some point, that investment was going to have to get pushed into the US. And so the largest foreign investor in the US, and I think we're pretty close to $9 billion already for the year, is Canada. And you can look even in Denver, just through the first 10 months of the year, 344 million of investment has occurred in Denver from foreign countries. 234 million of that has been Canada. So again, if over the last 5 years you missed that Canadian investment into the US was coming, you missed it. It's not over, by the way. But so get on top of it because it's coming. And then you have things to think about here, like demographic changes, economic recoveries. You look at the slide, there's nothing for you to see other than the Midwest, it's still a little tough for them. You know, those little red dots are tough. Most of the U.S. is recovering. Again, we want to see that leap, but most of the U.S. is actually recovering. And if you're anywhere near commodities, oil and gas, like we are here, ports, things of that nature, they're getting slightly ahead of everybody, as well they should, because those are elements and attributes of a region that should take you further. So when you're looking at investment theory and investment thesis, as you're building your strategies, understand what's in front of you. Spend some time on these demographics because they help you. Certain areas are getting better, certain are still struggling. I'm sure somebody can come up with a contrarian strategy for the places that aren't doing well as well, so there's always opportunity. And now these I'm going to fire through fairly quickly, which is don't miss as well things are changing on you. And you're going to hear me talk about pretty quickly over the next 5 or 6 slides the millennials, because they're changing the world, right? Baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, we're into the millennials. There's two kinds of millennials, but they are behaving very differently than we are behaving. And so you have life sciences, and you have energy, and you have technology that's now driving what we do. Green is in. You can't do anything about it. It's right and it's good. I hate seeing that government is still on this list. I do like that higher education's there. These things need to drive. There's a little bit of change here. What's in? Mass transit. Cars are going out, mass transit in. Detroit doesn't want to hear that, but it is what it is. We have a we generation instead of a me generation. And technology wants to be used. And this is where the millennials come in. They don't actually like to talk to each other anymore. And everyone in this audience, and if you have kids, you've seen it, and you actually think it's funny, but it's not. Some people do. Some people get really upset about it, that they're screaming at their kids, pick up the phone and call your friend. They're just not going to do it. And if you miss that this is occurring right now, social media has put these kids into a position to never talk to each other again, and to FaceTime and to view, and it's going to cut down, it's going to impact airlines, because that next generation is not going to want to get on a plane, they're going to want to be downtown, they're going to want to use their laptops, they are going to e-bank, right? And these are the folks, it's the folks kind of on the what would be the right-hand side of that, and look at how many of them there are. There are many, many more. The baby boomers are going to be going away here. And these young folks who have a decidedly different approach to life than we do are going to be the next decision makers, and they will change things. Young people move. Look at Denver. It's at the top of the charts in terms of where they want to move. Young, affluent, energetic, outdoorsy. They're coming here. They're going to Austin, Texas for quality of life. They're moving out of the places they used to be. They're mobile. They're moving out of states, and the funny thing is most of the move-out states are states whose pension fund obligations and their financial situation is almost dire. And then you look at where they're moving into, and these are places that have their act together or are on the verge of getting their act together. These are true changes. These are facts. You just have to know what they are. You look at office suites. It's shifting. Dedicated offices will be a thing of the past. HR departments will tell you, I can't do that. It's an HR. I can't recruit if I can't give somebody a big office. It's still meaningful for us. It's not meaningful for the millennials. They don't even want to come to the office. They would rather talk to you from their FaceTime. Things will change. I don't need to read these to you. Things will change. Office space trends. Again, Chris started out with this, and he literally had people's jaws dropping in terms of things are good. There's absorption's getting picked up. Things aren't getting built. Pretty good stats. Rates are going up. Not so bad. But look at that last line, and by 2020, 46% of the U.S. workforce will be millennials. And I'm telling you, they want to be downtown, they want to work downtown, and they don't want to come into the office. It doesn't mean that there isn't a role for office space in the United States. That's not the point. But it will change, and you have to adapt to it. The picture on here is actually my office in Chicago. I try to come in. I want to be there, can't, spending most of the time on American, but that office on the right is mine. I was told I needed an office because I talk about things that legal would rather me not be talking about in open plan, because I'd rather hang out in open plan. But you look at the size of it. That and my office in Toronto, I have an 8x10 and a 10x10. So the chairman and CEO of the company, 8x10 and 10x10. There's change. And by the way, this is what we're telling our clients to do, so we might as well walk the talk as well. So this is going to change. Working from home, as you see, again, in terms of some surveys, working from home is really, really important, and it's important to the millennials. The millennials, everybody wants to shift back to the urban core. Makes some sense. Again, you have oil here, but there are places where oil is so expensive that folks cannot afford to get in their car and drive from their home 23 miles to work in a retail shop when the amount of the gas for that week just ate up all of their salary. So folks are moving downtown to live, work, and play. You've heard this before. It's just a change to watch out for. Space needs will change. Some of the best tech companies we have in this country have already moved to open plan. It's not hoteling anymore. You barely come into the office. By the way, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but in the United States, office space is utilized about 40% of the space that we have is utilized. There's no manufacturer that would ever run at that. We have allowed that to happen. CFOs and boards are not going to allow that to happen anymore, not when the workforce doesn't want to come in. However, you might have a Google who puts in a basketball court and a few other things, so they may need the same amount of space, but it's going to be open plan, come in, sit where you sit, be in that environment. We've seen this for 10 years. It's just real now because the millennials are pushing it. We were willing to sort of tolerate it, but it's happening. Industrial, and to save a little bit of time here, industrial, you have the opening of or the widening of the Panama Canal that will change things. It'll change things for the West Coast. People are moving more to using technology like RFID or smart tags. They are using them. We're seeing the BRIC countries. They are very large. They generate volume. Can't get away from this. Changes for you to think about. And retail, I want to tie this together. I had my most fun with Chris Lee because I had to stop him. He was rolling and rolling and rolling on all these things. And I had to stop him because he got to retail, and he actually said, if you own retail, you are toast. Now, anyone in this room, I'm sure, is feeling that same kind of knot in your stomach for somebody to say that. I don't agree with him. He said it was provocative, he got everybody's attention. What he pointed to was the Amazon effect. It's real. There are companies, think of your home improvement stores. You can now buy a shovel on Amazon for 20% less and it'll be delivered to your house that day. That's what Amazon's been working on. They're pretty close, right? It's overnight right now, but very soon it's going to be same-day delivery. Look at the stats here. Again, you've got millennials. Only 41% of millennials shop at grocery stores. Look at the expansion in use of technology for retail. But here's where I think he missed something. I was really honored to have this conversation with a very senior leadership team of a major retailer that you know their name. And they did say, we are not going to open another store. We're not. And most likely we're going to take existing stores and we're going to make them smaller. But what was missing here, and here's the opportunity, if you're in the industrial business, every retailer, every brick and mortar retailer is working on their e-commerce strategy right now. And why Amazon is building DC after DC, logistics, supply chain management, power, to data centers, distribution centers, retail is just going to morph. Retailers will have the same amount of square footage, it just may not be the same square footage that they had in a mall or an open-air center that you deem retail. They will have all the square footage as their e-strategies continue to build. And they will. And so I said, one of my favorite here, Chris Lee actually believes in this third one that everyone will start to put in where the face of a retail store will change by day and night, right? You'll go in there during the day, it'll have one facade, and things will start to move on you using technology, and it'll look completely different at nighttime. That's probably right. That's actually pretty simple with the technology right now. And then you see the customer loyalty programs. It's 50 billion distributed annually. The world's just changing. Have to adapt to it. Renter households, everybody believes. He said it, but everybody else also believes this isn't his work. Renter households, because of these millennials, because they move to work-life balance, they don't want to buy homes, they don't want to stay, they do want to be in the urban core, they do have a lifestyle that they want, and it is changing. And therefore, multifamily is actually pretty good. As we all know, occupancy rates are great. Look at some of these stats, 35% of current renters previously owned a home. 61% of Americans would prefer to live in a smaller home and have a better commute. Things are changing. Oil's changing this, millennials are changing this, people wanting to live differently. All of these things are changing, but this is a huge, huge benefit and push to multifam. And you will see some of these things again. Competition among the young people and the older people to get to multifamily housing in downtown locations. Micro units, green, and it should be really exciting, the second to last one. And this is Chris's, is if he's right, that $1.5 trillion of new apartment buildings are going to be needed by 2030. You know, I brought these to you today because they were very provocative. You know, usually I like to write my own stuff, but this stuff was so good, and it fit into this trend that we've been trying to tell clients: prepare, understand the change, and prepare. And so the drivers, and we're getting to the end here, the drivers, this recovery will gain momentum. It will. Absolutely, the recovery will. It's a matter of Washington right now. Things want to get better. It's going to happen in spite of them. Rents are going to move, and they're going to move high, but we're going to get back to fundamentals, not cap rate compression. It's actually going to be growth. There's an abundance of capital. Fundamentals matter again. We can't count on interest rates going down to drive our success and lower cost. But it's going to be slow, and it's going to change. And then just a little bit here. You've heard about it, the change in Denver, not because of oil, because of this incredible place that everybody lives in here. It's beautiful. It's really what people want. It's certainly what the young people want. To have it ranked by Forbes, to have 2 in the top 5 is pretty amazing. You know, you look at the employment markets, Denver's there. You look at all the companies who have come in and moved here and are driving progress. Again, it's not perfect, no place is, but it's something that really is quite powerful, along with places like Miami and the coastal markets, which are very strong. Obviously, again, energy pushes it. Work-life balance, we talked about it. It's tax efficient. It's a place where a young, highly educated workforce wants to be. And kind of in summary, things are good here. You can read this yourself, but things are good. You beat the national average. You're financially a bit more secure than others. Some good things are happening here. And then I'd like to end with, I also have the greatest respect for this town, probably engaging and should be known for one of the greatest changes that any of us have seen in our lifetimes, and certainly in our recent past. I even believe the Vatican is looking into this, whether this is a miracle, but the change in Denver that occurred. The only thing these two gentlemen have in common is Demarius Thomas. So, good for you. You're going to have a Super Bowl. Keep the guy on the right healthy, and you're going to be beating everybody. So, it's been a pleasure. I thank you very much. I don't know if we have time. I'd take a question or two if we do. If not, no big deal. But just wanted to thank you for allowing me to be here. If there are any questions, just happy to answer. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, the slides you can have them. Not a problem. They'll make them available. Again, just things to think about. I can't see. Anybody? We have a 5-question minimum. I know it's late. You had your lunch. You took your power walk. All right. You know what? Let's get back on track anyway. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
It's time for our afternoon break, but just a couple of notes. First, we'd like to limit it to 15 minutes. If we could just dash out, use the restrooms, grab some water, and get back, I'd appreciate it. We're trying to get this back on track so we can end on time. Next thing is, please drop your cards in our booth. As the next segment starts, we're going to have a drawing on stage for the 3 pairs of tickets, and you have to be present to win. So please, Cronky will be here on stage. Please drop your card in our booth right here out 3C. Make sure you get your bingo card done. And you should have 3 marks on your continuing education card as you leave the room. So 3 marks, check your card. Thank you very much.